Hi everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we're going to be making this adorable cracked egg money message holder. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we're using. I have the all cracked up stamp set from Trinity Stamps. It also has the matching die. We have our Dainty egg layers. These are so cute. And then I paired that up with our double line checked background. We're going to use those three and a few other products, and we'll talk about those as we get to them. So I've got a piece of blue cardstock, and I'm actually going to trim this down. This actually measured 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. You could definitely go a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to trim that down. So I've got 2 panels. I'm going to do it with some green and also some pink, and these were all just in my stash. So go through your stash, find some colors you might want to use, and then let's get to stamping. So when I stamp these big background stamps, I like to just leave it on my glass mat, peel off the acetate, ink it up with whatever ink I chose to use, and then put my cardstock right out on top, and then use a piece of scratch like copy paper and just press really firmly. And then I usually get a very good impression. So we'll do the same thing with the other piece of cardstock. You could completely skip this portion if you wanted. You could only stamp it on one if you wanted. I wanted the front and the back to both have that checked background, so you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through it. But we're going to go ahead and die cut out the biggest of the Dainty egg layers out of both pieces of cardstock. Again, you could skip the stamping on the one piece since it's just going to be the back of the egg, but I wanted it to be universal from front to back, so we've stamped we've die cut both of those out, and then we'll set those off to the side. I'm going to ink up my cute little all cracked up gnome with some Blackout ink by Ink on 3. We're going to do that onto some Express It cardstock, and I'm going to stamp it twice just to make sure that I have a good impression. And then I'm going to pull out my Olo markers, which are some alcohol markers if you're unfamiliar. And I've got my little Olo cheat sheet. I don't have all of the Olo markers, the more recent set that was brought out. I say recent, it's been out I think for like a year and a half or so. But I do have the first set, and I really like them. The goal is to eventually get them, but so far this works. So I'm just going to use the colors up on the screen that you see. Eventually we're going to have Miles come in and interrupt things, so I don't show you all of the coloring. Because he becomes relentless. When he wakes up from a nap, he wants all of your attention, and if you don't give it to him, he will just keep interrupting until he gets what he wants. So we're just using those same colors as the colors of cardstock that I chose. That way everything's nice and universal. I will end up coloring the 3 gnomes that I did end up stamping. I color all of their hats a little bit differently, but the eggs are all the same. And again, pardon my head and the cat. So this one we're going to do with that blue, those blue-green colors that we've used. And then, we'll add some darker color onto that. I like to go light to dark and then just add color where I need it. And then we'll move on to his skin tone eventually. Those are the ORs. I've got some OR 1.1, and I believe I used 3.4 for the darker shade. For the eggshell, I do use O 7.1, and then for his beard, I use W1. And I'm telling you this because this is the part where I didn't get to show you all the rest of the coloring. So I'll bring in the matching die that goes along with our adorable little all cracked up gnome and run that through my die cutting machine. And then I'm going to bring in some sentiment stock, which is just a very smooth black cardstock. It's perfect for embossing. And I'm going to emboss the word Happy Easter onto that black cardstock. So I've got my detail white embossing powder out. I'm going to use a anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to grab some Juicy Embossing ink. That's by Ink on 3 also. And I'm going to ink up the word Happy Easter. So like I said, I'm making 3 of these little Easter card holder thingies. And so I'm going to stamp out the sentiment 3 times. And then we'll cover that with our white detail embossing powder. And I don't show you on the screen, but I do heat set that. You want to use your heat tool. And then when it goes from like a matte finish to a glossy finish, it's all ready to go. And then I'm going to use the matching die for this as well to cut out those words. And now we'll be ready to put our crack in the egg. Now, you can't see it here, but I do have the 2 eggs lined up together. They are front and back. And then I'm just going to cut freehand a crack on the egg. And this is where you can see I've got both of the two pieces, so front and back. And this is probably where you'd want to stamp if you had a name stamp that you'd want to put like hand stamped by Cassie. I would want to stamp that then. But I didn't do that. And then I do cut down some white cardstock. I did cut it a little too big this time. I think I cut it about 2 inches by 2 3/4. I'm going to actually cut it down to 2.5 inches. I'm going to save that little piece because I'm going to use it to make a stopper, and you'll see what I'm talking about as we get to that as well. And that works pretty good. I think that's going to fit in there. So I'm just going to use a little bit of glue right at the top and the back side of our white piece of cardstock, and then I will adhere that down to the top of the cracked egg. Okay, once that's on there, we're going to bring in some of the double-sided adhesive strips. Those adhesive foam strips that Trinity Stamps carries. These are fabulous. And so I'm just going to work those around the egg, avoiding parts of the paper, obviously. You don't want it to get caught on there. And then like I said, I want to add little stoppers at the top. You could completely skip the step of adding a stopper, but I didn't want the whole part of the top of the egg to just fall out of there. So that's why I'm putting those little stopper pieces on the top part of the bottom section of the egg. And then we'll add some to the top. I love these adhesive foam strips. They're nice and thin. They work for so many of the sentiments and for so many other projects that you might want to use them for. Okay, so as you can see, that just kind of falls out of there the whole time. This is where I bring in that tiny little piece that I cut before. I'm just going to cut it in half. There's no science to that. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to it. And we're just going to let a little bit of that hang off the edge. And that is going to get caught on those two pieces of foam adhesive at the very top. So see, they'll catch there. And we'll just let that dry. And then when we're ready, we can adhere the top part of the egg to the adhesive foam strips that are at the top. Here's where I decide I can add another little piece to the top of that because you're not going to see that anyway. It's covered by the egg. And I do want this to have a little bit of stability. So we're going to go ahead and line that up the best we can. And then we'll stick that inside of our egg and we'll peel off all the rest of the release paper. And then we can adhere down the bottom portion of the egg. Just lining everything up, pardon my head. And then see how cute that is? I love it. And now we can decorate it. So I've got my little gnome and I've got the Happy Easter. Here I've decided I'm going to go ahead and trim those apart, which is super simple to do. And that way they'll fit on the egg really nicely. And so I'll go ahead and use some liquid glue to adhere everything down, just avoiding the top of the hat so that I don't glue the top of the egg to the bottom of the egg by accident. And then I'll glue the words Happy and Easter on there. And then of course, I can't stop there. You've got to embellish, right? And so I have some really beautiful sparkle spots that match those colors. We've got some watermelon, we've got lime, and we've got blue sky. So for this blue egg, I'm going to use the watermelon and the lime sparkle. And then I'm going to use the blue sky for the other two and just kind of, mix and match those around. And we'll use our pickup stick to pick those up and then glue those down with some liquid glue. And I was pretty liberal with those, but it was so fun to do. And once I have that last one on there, that's going to finish off this card. Look at that. How fun is that? And it'll fit into an envelope just fine. You can send that through the mail very easily. And it can hold some money or a message. It can't hold and a gift card. I did try that, but definitely can hold some folded up cash, right? So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Trinity Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.